Terry interruption.
Yeah. But you can't control everything.
No, well, exactly. This is the thing. Here we are talking about the issues of living systems. You cannot impose unilateral control on living systems. So the dog starts barking, and life intervenes. Yeah. And this is the problem that we have seen in the state. No matter how sophisticated your mechanisms of control, and the same in the corporation, no matter how sophisticated your mechanisms of control, you just cannot impose unilateral control. First of all, there's no place to stand outside the system. The moment you start trying to control it, you are part of the system, and you are being acted upon at the same time as you're acting. Second, you have imperfect knowledge, and so anything that you think you are doing, there are results that will elude your awareness. And third, you just don't have the ability to act on every part of the system consistently at the same time.
Yeah.
There's always a propagation of signal, and then the system is signaling itself. So it starts going in directions that you didn't predict. So the question is, how the heck do you deal with that? And people who are serious about studying these things, anthropologists and people in management science, and good, I don't mean to say that Anthony Giddens is not a good sociologist. He's had a lot of valuable things to say.
Oh, yeah.
But people who are seriously looking at these issues that I'm talking about, the non-linear issues, complex systems, are realizing that actually you have to go with the nature of complex systems and really work from the inside. So there's this revolution that started, I guess we could push it back quite a long ways if we really want to start looking for the early threads of it, but it started to show up in corporations in the 60s and 70s.
Yes.
And where we get the word sociocracy coming into the corporate world was when Gerard Endenburg. Gerard Endenburg is a Dutch child of some kind of socially revolutionary industrial technocrats. He was raised in a Quaker school in which he learned about consensus decision making, and then he was trained as a cybernetics engineer, so engineering electronic circuits. And one of the key insights of cybernetics is this thing that we're talking about, the circularity of systems, and how you engineer systems to function given that they are dependent on feedback loops. So that we are doing this interview using an iPhone, and without cybernetic engineering, paying attention to the feedback loops, this interview would be impossible. At least the recording of it. So Gerard Endenburg has handed the reins of his family's company. They say that his parents say, we're retiring, we'd like you to come take over, and we've been trying to do good with this institution, maybe you could continue to do good. And he said, well, okay, that sounds like I'd be able to contribute there, even though I love my engineering work. So he comes in, takes the reins of Endenburg Electrotechnik in the early 70s, and then he finds himself thinking, what is going on here? After the first year or two of working there, he sees that he comes from a Quaker background where they make decisions by consent. He has experience engineering circular systems, and yet he's running his corporation as a purely top-down hierarchy. And all of the issues that I was talking about with standard management science that have been plaguing corporate environments for years, when you have this top-down system and you think you can impose control unilaterally, you don't get information coming back up through the system, so all the steering you think you're doing fails. You are not actually able to act on every part of the system effectively, so the things that you think you're accomplishing, you are in fact not accomplishing. And what was the other bit? Oh yes, of course, you're not outside the system, so there are these feedback mechanisms that may be unconscious, but that are shaping you and how you go about your business. The unconscious deference that people pay you as a leading industrialist will change your personality over time. And starting to see these things, he went, there must be a way to apply cybernetic engineering and Quaker decision-making to the running of this corporation that I've inherited. And so he began to experiment. And sociocracy is really, as I'm discussing it today, this new wave of sociocracy. It is a way of engineering and living in and transforming together with an organizational system. It is a series of experiments that the people in the organization run together. It so happens that it is radically transformative. It drives, well, from an outside perspective, it drives the resilience of the organization through the roof. That is, when something goes wrong in the environment, you have to respond to a crisis. Organizations that are running sociocratically are able to respond to that perturbation much more effectively than organizations that just have that top-down hierarchy.
I gather there are stories in the book on sociocracy that illustrate just that.
Yes, and I'd be happy to tell you those stories, but
people can go to the book. Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. And I'll tell you one story because you bring it up, and this is one that you'll probably see repeated in various places. But at a time when there was basically the entire boat building division was going to have to shut down because that part of the Dutch economy was falling apart.
Yeah.
The board said, okay, we're probably going to have to shut down the boat building division. And the message went out through the organization, and we haven't come to the exact structures about how the information scaling and decision-making scaling works throughout the organization. But suffice it to say that a solution emerged on the shop floor, and the way that system worked allowed the person who invented the solution on the shop floor to become part of the management level above him, and then the management level above that, until he was delegated all the way up to the board within the matter of a month, and led the policy shift that allowed the organization as a whole to turn all those people in the boat building division into salespeople, bringing in new business for other parts of the company.